Okay, welcome back. We've got another one today. Eric Trump is going to come on. His dad is Donald Trump, former president. Might ruffle some feathers out there, not sure, but we're going to do it. We're going to be sensible about it. We're going to use some common sense. We're going to hear what he has to say. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I agree on. There's probably maybe a few things that you might not agree on, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. Once again, Twitter, Instagram, hit me up. We've gotten some good requests and ideas from everyone listening, and I hope you like it. So let's get Eric on, and we'll do this. I think he's in New York. Okay, third time's a charm, I think.
Good time.
Welcome back. We've got a special guest coming from New York, Eric Trump. Thanks for coming on, man.
Good to be on, Jay.
I appreciate it. We were talking before we started filming. You listened to the Jedediah one, and I think she was in New York also, but was on The View. Obviously, that thing went viral, I think, on her. But she came on, well spoken, kind of middle ground. I mean, I enjoyed talking with her. I didn't really say much. I mean, I think she talked for 30 minutes, but she did a good job.
She did a great job, and I think she cut through a lot of the BS that we hear every single day, and she was sensible. There's a lot of real approaches to this whole vaccine. There's people who believe in it, and there's people who don't, and there's people who might need it, and there are other people who don't. And I thought she really kind of articulated herself very well. And there's a lot of room in society for this conversation, and the media doesn't want to have it. One media outlet will be all the way to the far right. One media outlet will be all the way to the far left, and fortunately or unfortunately, the world's a lot more complicated than that. And, it's not just black and white. There's a lot of gray in there. And it was, I thought, a really good conversation. I thought it was an honest conversation. I thought it was a smart conversation. So, kudos to both of you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it was. And I think, I was excited to talk to her because just listening to her, I knew you could have a conversation with her and kind of get both sides of it. She wasn't going to be far right or far left. I mean, she had some middle ground, and I mean, she had a lot of stuff to back it up. So it was fun. It was fun talking to her. And like you said, I mean, today's society and world, I think that, I think you said it earlier when we were talking, like, I think they're starting to generate and go more towards podcasts and get their news and other outlets instead of, the CNN, the Fox News, the MSNBC, like all those things. Like, people are starting to, I think, kind of trend away from that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got to get back to real journalism as a country across the board. It's actually deeply scary. We spend so much time yelling at one another. The host at 8 o'clock has to be more sensational than the host at 7 o'clock, which needs to be more sensational than the host at 6 o'clock. Otherwise, they don't get paid. They have to fill up 24 hours of time with not 24 hours worth of stories. And, we sit there and it ends up dividing the country when... Listen, Jay, there's a lot of bad in the world. There's a lot of people who want to do us harm. We saw it firsthand over the last 4 years, right? The things that you see when you're in that bubble. China does not have our best interests at heart. Let's just be very honest about that. They don't want the best for this country. They want to be the superpower of the world, and they will lie, cheat, and steal economically and otherwise every single day, and we're seeing it. And so we're, in this country, focused on having, conversations about subjects that either don't matter or are counterproductive or don't influence a lot of people or, a whole host of things.
Sure.
While these people are literally breaking into our servers, breaking into our companies, hacking, plans for fighter jets, manipulating world currencies, controlling. It's sad. I mean, our priorities are just screwed up in this world, and we've got to actually focus on what's important and get off of this nonsense.
Yeah, and we've kind of been divided, the last probably year and a half, 2 years, and it just, I mean, hopefully we'll figure some stuff out, but we'll launch more into that in a bit. I want to talk your younger days, and you're up in New York, but I read that your grandfather taught you how to hunt in Czech.
So it's kind of funny. Don and I always say that we're much more like Rutt Daniels than we are a New York. Listen, Jay, if you look out my window right now, I'm sitting over Fifth Avenue, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're in New York, so like you wouldn't think that you guys were as accomplished hunters as you are. But like, what did you first learn to hunt?
Well, my grandfather got us in the woods. He got us in rivers. We were fly fishing. We were,
Yeah.
saltwater fishing, and we grew up with a BB gun in our hands, and we kind of took it to another level. But I had a lot of friends that grew up in New York, and you have a lot of friends that went down bad paths too. And
Yep.
I had a lot of friends that fell into drugs, and they had too much access, and they had too much money. And for us, my parents put us to work at a young age. Like, we were expected to be on construction sites. I can do
Yeah.
electrical, I can do plumbing as well as anybody out there. And when we weren't doing that, we were either in a tree stand or we were fishing, and that was a big part of our life. And guess what? If you're doing that stuff, you're not doing all these things. Like, we live very clean, straight lifestyles, and I attribute a lot of that to the outdoors.
Absolutely. I did read that you were on the job sites working. And I mean I grew up similar. I mean, obviously not in New York, but I mean I grew up one of my first jobs was on the back of a trash truck. So like go around the neighborhood, throwing the trash in there, and then grew up hunting. I still remember the first time I went hunting with my dad. It was cold as hell out. And he basically made it was like a fort in a tree. We're both sitting in there out of wood and stuff, and a doe came across and with a shotgun, a 20 gauge Remington, 870 Express, still have it, and shot the doe, shot it back. We ended up finding, I think, the next day, but it's still a memory of mine for sure.
Those are the best memories, and I have a lot. My grandfather, obviously, Don's a big hunter. We do it everywhere, and again, it's something I hope to instill in my kids, kind of the appreciation of nature. There's no bigger conservationists in the world than hunters. They understand the ecosystem better than anyone. They do more to preserve it, and we're just we love it. It's a big part of our life, and again, it's a big part of, I think, my character and why we stayed on the straight and narrow. When if you want to be completely honest, most people sitting in our shoes probably don't, right? I mean, they have access to a lot of kind of
Yeah.
bad things, and hey, there's somebody that was very similar to us that's sitting in Washington right now who found a lot of bad things. Our parents wouldn't allow us to do that. They had us in the woods, and we were just never predisposed to it. And I'll always credit the outdoors to being a big part of our lives.
No, absolutely. I've got two sons and a daughter, and both my boys have started hunting this year. Got a farm in Kentucky, and we were up there for the opening day. And Camden, 9-year-old, he went out with the farm manager, and then I took Jackson out with me. And Camden had a crossbow, and I mean, smoked a buck,
Awesome.
went 40 yards, and we filmed it. I mean, he's shaking, like and we were practicing probably for a month before this, and the kid is, I mean, just smoking the target. And Luke was telling me the story of him being there, and he's like, Kendall was just shaking. He's like, couldn't get on the buck, and like he was excited. But it's something I totally agree with you. I want to instill that in my kids, and I think it's gonna help them out later in life for sure.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
How
By
old
the
are
way, Jay, I have a Luke as well. He became a lifetime member of the NRA the day he was born. So he's a little bit too young right now. He's only 4, but he's already shooting the BB gun and having fun with it. So
Have you had any hunting trips this year?
I'm gonna definitely make it down to Texas probably in January. So I'm gonna do that. And I love New York season. Listen, the deer in New York, they're not the greatest deer in the world. But sitting in New York in a tree stand with my bow, it's kind of my magical place. That's religion to me. It's where I do the best thinking. It's just kind of very special. You see the leaves change, and it's just something that's kind of ingrained in my DNA. So I've gotten out a bunch of times this year, and I love it. I just sitting there with the bow, whether or not you're actually gonna release an arrow or not, it's kind of indifferent to me. But I just like sitting out there and enjoying nature.
Totally agree. It's not even really about that. It's just about getting out there and being away from everything. My buddy Pat LaFrida, who I have we do meet together. I know he bow hunts a lot in New Jersey and New York, and he actually killed a monster bear 2-3 years ago. And there's some big animals running around there.
A lot of big bear in Pennsylvania. A lot of really good deer in New Jersey. A lot of really good deer in New Jersey. So some of these kind of sleepy, wealthy suburbs, these big deer will walk around eating flowers all day. They get to be monsters. So.
Yeah, no pressure. We've got some subdivisions in Nashville, just kind of right on the outskirts of town. That I mean, 200-inch deer just rolling around like you said, just eating flowers out of a backyard. So I mean, they're massive, massive deer, but it's fun. It's fun. I saw you. I saw you. You and your brother. You've done Africa too, huh?
Yeah, we've done Africa a couple times. I love it over there. It's
I've never done
really
that.
special place. We've done Africa. We've done northern Canada, Alaska, and so love that stuff.
Look, we all need to pay better attention to what we put in our body, especially if you work out like I do. I'm sure you're familiar with creatine. You know those giant tubs of junk they sell you at the vitamin shop? Well, this holiday season, the best things come in small packages, like creatine that actually works in small doses, and that's Concrete. Concrete is the only microdose creatine, and it's able to provide all the strength and endurance benefits of creatine without any of the negative side effects like bloating or cramps. Creatine is vital for your immune system to fight serious disease, your muscles to gain strength, and even your brain to increase and improve memory and focus. Concrete is a gift of better health, focus, fitness, and immunity this holiday season. It's a perfect stocking stuffer available at Walmart and walmart.com. Enter to win a free Planet Fitness Gym membership plus Concrete for a year and a $500 Visa gift card. Take better control of your health, body, and mind. Get Concrete into your life today. Register now at concrete.com/podcast. That's CON-CRET.com/podcast. Available now at Walmart and walmart.com. Concrete is truly changing the fitness and health game. Go to concrete.com/podcast. So you're executive VP of the Trump organization. So what do you do?
Yeah, so on a daily basis, I run all our hotels, run all our golf properties, residential properties, retail, commercial, a bunch of commercial buildings, and we have a winery in Charlottesville, Virginia that does tremendously well, and a whole host of other things. So we're busy, and obviously during campaign season, I jump in there. But we love the hotel world. At the end of the day, we're builders. We're great bricks and mortar people. We understand it. We're great operators. I think we operate some of the best hotels in the world. We do it all over the world, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We do it as a family. We do it as a family company. The people who've been in the company have been here for just a very long time, and I think we do it better than anybody else. And it's a great job. It's a great business, and we've accomplished a lot.
I mean, yeah, so much. I mean, I'm going to Chicago after New Year. I'm staying in the Trump Tower in Chicago. Love that building.
Yeah, so I spent literally 8 years of my life building that building, freezing my butt off. Chicago's cold in the winter, and we spent a lot of winters building that. And when you're pouring concrete 80 floors above Lake Michigan in the heart of February, it's cold, but it's a spectacular building. It's an awesome place. You're gonna love it.
It is. But it took 8 years to build that thing.
Well, between zoning approvals, et cetera, it only took actually 2.5, 3 to actually build the thing.
Yeah.
But, the pre-construction stuff takes a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, Chicago's not the best place to get everything done either.
Expeditious place in the entire world.
You got to jump through a lot of red tape.
They're not model government in Chicago, to say the least. Right?
They're not at all. Did you always know you wanted to work in the family business, or was there ever a point where you're like, oh, I'd rather go do X, Y, or Z?
Listen, for the longest time, I wanted to go into the military. I wanted to be a pilot. I always loved the long-range shooting stuff. I was thinking about, doing that. I got into it because I've always loved bulldozers. I love heavy equipment. I love seeing steel fly through the air, right? That's kind of ingrained in my DNA. I mean, there's no better person at looking at a plan and laying out a bathroom, laying out a room, and you either have that or you don't. I couldn't draw your face. My wife is a phenomenal kind of artist on the side. She could draw you kind of verbatim, in 2 weeks after not seeing you, but she can't lay out a bathroom. I'm the opposite way, right? I'm very kind of, stick oriented, and that works very well in the real estate world that we live in. And so I think I figured it out very quickly. And, when you can build some of these projects, it's exciting. I mean, you're redefining skylines, you're building some of the best buildings in the world, and it's, they really have a life of their own. And if you actually look back at some of these projects that we've put up, whether it's restoring kind of historical buildings, whether it's building Turnberries of the world, it's a big course we have over in Scotland, which has been there for 300 years. King Robert the Bruce actually was born on the property, and
Really?
the 1200s and stuff like that. It's awesome stuff, but you can really kind of make your mark on something that's very, very tangible, and it's just something that I love.
Yeah, I mean, you've traveled all over the world. What's your favorite place to visit?
Oh God, listen, I love the U.S.,
Yeah.
especially when you get into the mountains. There's nothing better than kind of the mountains of Colorado in the fall. That's probably truly my favorite place in the world. And outside the continental U.S., you go into Africa, and there's something about the southern hemisphere, and looking up in the sky. If you look up at the stars, there's a different smell to it. It's you could see kind of why life was kind of created there in a certain way, and so I love the African continent. I love the Caribbean, actually. Surprisingly, I know it's kind of near, but there's a lot. I love marlin fishing, and I love going out there. And it's a beautiful place, and it's right in our backyard. But not enough people kind of take advantage of it, and a lot of great places.
There are a lot of great places. I have a lot of friends who are pro baseball players, and they've turned me on to this amazing candy from Japan called Hi-Chew. And it's really a lot more than candy. Hi-Chew has been created in over 200 flavors since it first launched in Japan in 1975, with very specific flavor profiles. Hi-Chew's flavors are unlike anything else. There is no artificial flavor taste at all. It's simple. Hi-Chew makes people happy, and happy people smile more. Hi-Chew isn't a gum or a taffy. However, the chewy texture is different from other candies. And the best part, Hi-Chew contains no colors from synthetic sources and is gluten-free. Single flavored sticks or variety bags are perfect for stocking stuffers this holiday season. So hand out some Christmas smiles with Hi-Chew. MLB players are not the only celebrity fans of Hi-Chew. Also, folks like John Mayer, Kylie Jenner, Macklemore, and Ryan Gosling really enjoy it, just to name a few. We want you to love Hi-Chew as much as we do. Visit hi-chew.com/win. That's hi-chew.com/WIN and enter to win an exclusive bucket full of Hi-Chew candy and swag. While you're there, check out how you can become a member of Hi-Chew Chew Crew, which is an exclusive club where you receive special offers and all the cool things. Go to hi-chew.com/win. So life, before, I mean, you guys were kind of always flirted with politics. I mean, just because you had to, but life before and after presidency, like, do you regret going into that, or was it just kind of one of those things?
No, I certainly don't regret it, because I think it made more of kind of a transformational difference on this country than any president, maybe in history. I mean, look what he did with the economy. Look what he did with unemployment. They wanted to hit him every single day. I'll never forget, Jay. And again, this was kind of deeply personal to me, but Washington Post, literally 10 minutes after he won the presidency, they started, their articles. This is where impeachment begins. And, you started the conversation talking about kind of the civility of, and really the conversation that's happening in this country and how polarizing it is. And it's almost tough to work in that environment. Here's a guy who gave up a billionaire lifestyle. Here's a whole family who put everything on their line, put down their whole lives, got rid of a lot of businesses, did everything, right? Wanting to go in and make a difference because you had a lot of incompetence in politics. And they're not in for more than 12 minutes. This is the middle of the night. I mean, literally, Hillary just called to concede. And the Washington Post, owned by, one of the wealthiest men in the world, is already starting the articles about, this is when impeachment begins. I mean, we didn't even have a chance, right? And this is the crap that we lived with throughout the entire cycle. I was the guy that got the Michael Sussman call. You probably read a lot about this, but the whole dossier and all the nonsense. I mean, going in there lying to the FBI about secret servers that the Trump organization, literally the place I'm sitting in right now, apparently had with Russia. Now, we don't have any secret servers, right? The guy went in, made this whole story up, lied to the FBI, then went to the New York Times, told the New York Times that the FBI was investigating this. Clearly, the New York Times called up the FBI. Are you investigating it? Clearly, they had to say yes because they just got this fake tip. Now, the guy's going to jail for all of this, but this is the political environment our family walked into. We weren't smart enough to collude with Russia. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know what a delegate was. Jay, I remember walking up to a caucus in Iowa saying, I looked at this little young staffer and I go, hey, can you tell me what a caucus is? Because I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to be doing here. And, well, sir, you're going to be next to one of them. I go, who's one of them? Well, Cruz and Jeb Bush and Ben Carson. and they're going to be talking about why they would be the best candidate for president of the United States. And, you're going to talk about your father. You understand that they actually know something about politics, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell do I know about
Yeah,
the border?
I know
What the hell do I
nothing.
know about
Yeah.
immigration? You know what I do on a daily basis? I build skyscrapers, I build buildings, I operate, hotels. But we went out there and we spoke from the heart. We weren't
Yeah.
smart enough to collude, but from the second we got into politics, it's, the impeachment started and they wanted to take us out. And, I was on the board of St. Jude's Children's Hospital, a hospital that I literally raised $25 million for before the age of 30,
Yeah.
and guess what? They start, politicizing that. Eric's stealing from children with cancer. They're saying, I raised $25 million, build the most state-of-the-art ICU anywhere in the world dedicated to dying children.
Yeah.
At a cumulative expense ratio of 9%, right? Which is probably the best of any charity in the country. But yet, these people go around slandering you, saying you steal from children with cancer. This is the bullshit that we dealt with every single day. And so I don't know how we get back to proper civility, but it's awfully hard when you go in with the best of intentions. You put hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of your own money into saving a country.
Yeah.
And you don't even get the benefit of a doubt. It's crazy, and it has to end.
Hopefully it does. And the problem is, like, you guys disrupted the system. Like, career politicians, like, were put on notice. Like, that was the whole problem. Like, you guys didn't need anybody. Like, you didn't need the right side or the left side. Like, it was just, your dad and you guys were just trying to do what was best for the country instead of having a certain agenda, which most of these career politicians have an agenda.
Yeah, that's right. It's really funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was kind of reflecting back on the chants back in 2016. You remember the chant, "Drain the swamp," right?
Yep.
No one actually really knew what "drain the swamp" meant, other than the fact that you had a lot of politicians who had been in office, like Nancy Pelosi for 35 years, and Chuck Schumer, and all these people who had spent 50 years of their life. And they look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden's never held a real job, right?
No.
He's never done what you did. He never brought any experiences to the table, right? And that's kind of what "drain the swamp" meant back then. But
Yeah.
you fast forward what "drain the swamp" means today. The weaponization of the DOJ, the weaponization of the FBI, the weaponization of every single kind of structure and branch. And look what's happened to education in this country, and look how politicized it's become. This is the education of the youth of the United States of America. What's more important than that? And that's become weaponized. Look at how much money is being made off of big pharma right now. Moderna, I was tweeting about this yesterday.
I just saw
Moderna's
it.
stock in February of 2020.
19
Yeah, it was 19 bucks.
Yeah. 329 right now.
329 right now, right? Like, that's a big freaking problem. Like, that's a really big problem, right? They weaponized that system. They weaponized the DOJ. You saw how they came after us baselessly. They weaponized prosecutors. They weaponized the military. You have Milley, who's sitting there spending more time worrying about renaming military bases around the country and sensitivity training than, knowing that China was launching supersonic, ultrasonic, missiles capable of destroying the United States of America. And all the systems in this country have been weaponized for political means, and it's deeply freaking scary.
It's really scary. And we're about the same age. I remember growing up, we didn't have these political divides, and it just wasn't a thing. And now it seems like, you can't go anywhere or really do anything without, having a discussion or something about politics, about the vaccine, about masks, about mandates. It's like literally, it's the only thing that's happening in the world right now. Like, how do we get back to just normalcy, or do we?
Well, I think part of that's consistency. And by the way, both sides are guilty of this, but I really think if you actually break it down to consistency, let's just take the left for a second, and I can bring this to the right as well. But let's just take the left for a second. It was always my body, my choice, right? In terms of so many subjects, abortion, so many things. But now they're saying, Jay, you have to have a shot. Now, you came out of the NFL. You're an incredibly healthy guy. You're a strong guy. You're not predisposed to it, probably. You're, et cetera, et cetera. Like,
sure.
So now all of a sudden somebody is forcing something down your throat, but there's a lack of consistency there. My body, my choice, right? And yet they're kind of, want to jam a needle into you. And when are we going to have some level of consistency in terms of conversation? You can't speak out of both sides of your mouth. Otherwise, you really do create this beehive of a conversation, and you create massive confusion in society. And by the way, there are examples on the opposite side where they do that as well. And,
Sure.
it's, there's constantly a gun grab. You're a gun guy. I'm a gun guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's constantly a gun grab, right? And, but yet, the other side wants, this side to respect every single right and liberty and this and that. It's like, how about you kind of stay out of my life and I'll stay out of your life, right?
Sure.
At what point do we have that honest conversation where there just has to be consistency in terms of the dialogue of all these conversations? Otherwise, you do kind of create this hornet's nest that's really hard to separate from.
It really is, and like you said, I think both sides are definitely guilty of it. But we're getting into a situation now where it's basically like situational ethics. Whatever suits you at the time, that's where you land on it. Instead of, like you said, having this consistency over time of saying, hey, this is where we land, and whether it's good or bad for us, like this is our platform.
Yeah, and the sad thing is there's a lot of money behind this stuff, and people don't realize it. I mean, there's a lot of people who are sowing dissension for their own, means, for their own kind of benefit. You see that across so many of the marches that were happening kind of over the last couple of years. I mean, there was a lot of money. Make no mistake, the bricks weren't getting dropped off on the side of the road in school buses, by, these were organized efforts. There's no question about it, right? These were organized efforts. And, you look at it again, we were just talking about Big Pharma. Like, you better believe that so much of the information out there is an organized effort by Big Pharma to plant information, to plant their narrative, because it ultimately benefits them. Now, that's capitalism. I mean, I'm a capitalism. I believe in capitalism, but there's also right and wrong and morality, and there has to be an intersection of those kind of two guiding principles.
Yeah, well, I'm sure some people, the majority of people don't realize how Big Pharma works and how they're able to buy information and how they're able to, put their story out there, through these certain outlets, and, how it can kind of skew things a little bit.
Well, hydroxychloroquine was actually a great kind of example of it. And now all of a sudden you have all these stories coming out how hydroxychloroquine really worked, right? And
yeah.
My father, you remember this very well, Jay, but, he was getting pounded by everybody saying, how dare you suggest something could possibly work, right? And this was back in the early pandemic days where everybody was just trying to figure out what the hell COVID was. And he's sitting there saying, hey, all of a sudden it works. You have all these people with, rheumatoid arthritis who's taking hydroxychloroquine. Guess what? Their prevalency of COVID is exponentially lower than the average. Is there a correlation there? And it ends up that there's a lot of studies saying that hydroxychloroquine ended up working out very well, but you had every pharma company coming out and saying, how dare you say that? They started banning, any doctor writing a prescription of it to their patients.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, they were out there getting paid billions and billions of dollars to come up with, new shots and new this and boosters. And the same companies that are making the shots own the companies that make the syringes. And guess what? You don't just have one shot. Now you have to have two shots. Now you have to have two shots plus a booster shot. And guess what? It's the reason Moderna's stock went from, $19 to $329, right?
Yep.
Up 1,700% roughly in a year and a half period of time. And again, I'm a capitalist. I'm not, I'm not dissing the system. And by the way, there's a lot of good that's been done by Big Pharma. I mean, they've effectively eradicated people dying from HIV. And I mean, you go into so many of the things that they've really helped solve, and they've done tremendous good. I mean, again, half my life has been dedicated to childhood pediatric cancer research at St. Jude. There's organizations out there that do God's work, right? And by the way, I'm good with them making money off of doing that, but at the same time, there's a lot of external influences out there that want to see us tear each other's throats out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are making a lot of money, and I just think people need to have their eyes open to all of that.
Oh, I totally agree. And your dad was, he was doing everything under his sun to help try to find a vaccine. And some people on the left were like, I'm not going to trust any vaccine under the Trump administration. And then obviously Biden comes in and they're like, oh, pro-vaccine, that everyone get it immediately. It's just crazy how the whole system works sometimes.
Well, Jay, so you had that problem, and I actually tweeted that video the other day where it was kind of Biden's comments, and you had Andrew Cuomo's comments, and Kamala Harris's comments, and just go through the list saying, I would never inject something into my body. You
Yeah.
can't mandate me to inject something. Hey, by the way, I got the vaccine.
Uh-huh.
And I know a lot of people who didn't. People,
Sure.
right? But you can't force me to inject something into my body. Now they're obviously forcing it down everybody's throat. So I tweet the video the other day. I actually put it up on Instagram. I tweet the video and put it up on Instagram of all of their comments from a year ago saying you can't force an American to put something in their body. And you know what Instagram does? They literally put the whole censor screen over it. Independent fact checkers say that this isn't true. It's like, what do you mean? Like a video of Biden verbatim saying that you can't force an American to put something in there.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the problem in this whole thing. It's like the same nice conversation that you had with Jedediah that made a lot of sense. Yeah, Jedediah's comments made a lot of sense when you guys were talking about it, but then you have that discussion on one of these kind of big tech platforms, and they actually remove an honest conversation that's being had, and they don't allow it to happen. And that censorship it's just scary. I mean, you have to be able to debate tough, complicated issues like this. Like the COVID-19 issue is not a simple issue. It's a tough issue. And
Very
it brings in a lot of things. It brings in religion, morality, health, pre-existing conditions, individual choice, individual freedoms.
Yeah.
But you're not even allowed to have those conversations now because big tech otherwise, thinks it's kind of their job to put their thumb on the scale of justice.
Which which is amazing because a lot of these platforms were designed just for that, for this discussion and individuality and being able to say what you want to say. And now we're going the complete opposite way and saying you can say whatever you want to say, just not about this topic, and this topic.
Well, you're right. And by the way, if you're a programmer at Google and you happen to be on the opposite side of the end of the political aisle, like you couldn't work at Google. There's no way. I mean, literally, you would have some 23-year-old super genius kid, with a pocket square who would say, you know what, Jay can't be at this company, otherwise I'm revolting and my entire team is leaving. I mean, This is literally what you're up against. And at what point, do we as a country stand for the very things that are in our Constitution, which is freedom of speech? It has to happen. I mean, social media is the modern day telephone. It's our way to communicate, and you shouldn't be able to censor those conversations. And I think you're going to have a lot of decisions coming out of the Supreme Court about exactly this. I mean, you need massive reform because otherwise it's going to shut down a big section of the conversation in this country.
I think people are getting wise to it. I think that they're starting to figure it out. I think there's this huge middle group of Americans that don't really say a lot because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get censored. They don't want to get fired from their job. But they're not trusting. They're not trusting big companies, big pharma, big tech. And I think we're going to have a little revolt here coming at some point of Americans being like, you know what, this is enough of this. Like we've got to start going the other way.
You kind of had it, Jay. I think Virginia was that kind of first revolt where, people kind of stepped on moms, and the one thing you don't do is step on moms. And all of a sudden you had, and don't step on a child's education. And you had people who came out and massively revolted. A guy who should have won, a guy who was kind of like the prodigy child of Virginia, got blown out of the water by a no-namer. And I think you saw a real turn there. And I can tell you, for as much hate as you see spewed on TV every single day and social media, Jay, I can't walk down the street in New York and not have people come up to me and hug me and say, hey, thank you for what your family has done. Now, a lot of times, Jay, they're whispering. They're not broadcasting it, but they'll come up to me, we're behind you, and thank you for what you've done. And if there's one thing that DJT will go down, for doing as president, I actually think it's opening these dialogues. No one was focused on China ripping us off. No one was focused on NATO absolutely screwing us. No one was focused on the fact that we were spending billions of dollars protecting countries that were in certain ways wealthier than we were, and we were getting nothing for it, right? And we were being kind of the policeman of the entire world. No one was focused on these conversations. And guess what? Now all of a sudden everybody is. Everybody's wise to it. Everybody's wise to the problem of immigration. I mean, I could go down the list of things that he opened people's eyes to.
For sure.
I mean, how about the fact that our nuclear arsenal was totally falling apart? How about the fact that our military was run down? How about the fact that 22 veterans were dying every single day of suicide? And the VA was a system that was totally incompetent and wasn't taking care of, our incredible men and women in uniform. And, they didn't have a private option. So they sat there and they died while trying to get treatment. And he opened people's eyes to so many things. He opened people's eyes to the dishonesty of the media.
Yeah.
And frankly, the deepness of that swamp that he talks so much about. And I actually think, in a certain way, I'm not sure how you quantify that, but I actually think that would be one of his greatest accomplishments.
Oh, I mean, and it goes back to our talks. Like, you guys weren't in the system, so you guys went in there and just, wanted to do right by Americans, and every career politician had a problem with it because they might be losing their jobs, or you guys might open their eyes, or the voters' eyes to something that they're doing. So it scared the hell out of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, it did, especially, and I saw this every single day. I mean, you have some serious, take the military kind of industrial complex in this country. It's probably the largest lobbying arm. And I remember my father called up, Boeing, and they were ordering the new, Air Force Ones. And, they wanted to charge, $6-7 billion for these planes. My father goes, listen, I understand private aviation better than any person in the world. In fact, I own a Boeing.
Yeah.
I know Boeing very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm not freaking paying you guys $7 billion for this plane. Like, you're out of your damn mind.
Yeah, it's insane.
They ended up going and buying the latest two, Boeing 747-900s that were literally came off the line, but the airline that had already purchased them went belly up, so they could buy them for a song.
Yep.
They ended up buying those planes. They saved billions and billions of dollars, and it was bringing like a capitalist / real estate mentality into the government. But believe me, the people in government, they weren't thrilled that they were doing that. All of a sudden, they were embarrassed. How could they have possibly given out a contract for $7 billion that Trump just cut a couple $1 billion off of? I mean. And by the way, Jay, and this wasn't like a lot of work. This was like one call to Boeing and having the CEO come in, and Trump just saved the United States of America a couple $1 billion. He did the same thing with the F-35. Guess what, guys? I'm going to call up Boeing. He called up Lockheed. Why is this contract so expensive? He calls up Boeing. He goes, I really like that F-18 Super Hornet. That's an awesome plane. It looks really good. It might actually look, I think it's prettier than the other one. Why don't you give us a bid for a competitive plane to that? And all of a sudden, Lockheed drops like $300 billion off of a 10-year contract. And, why wasn't Obama making those calls? I mean, Joe Biden's certainly not making those calls. No. In fact, our budget deficit's going in the opposite way. And he did. And by the way, there were probably Republicans who weren't thrilled about him doing that too, right? Because that made a part that happened to be located in a state that they happen to represent or some nonsense, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
This is Washington, D.C. for you. It really is.
Are you guys ready for another run at this thing, or what?
Yeah, listen, when you spend your whole life and you put your whole life aside, to kind of do what we did, and you did it as effectively as we did.
Sure.
And listen, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole right now of, what I think happened in the election.
Yeah.
But I know when I was going out and I had 1,500 people at events, I'm not the candidate.
Yeah.
I'm a surrogate for a candidate.
Yeah.
And I'd be speaking across the street from Joe Biden, who had 30 people in these big circles, and he couldn't even fill those things. And I'm sitting there saying, how is the person whose name on the ticket getting 30 people, yet, the son of a guy who's on the ticket is pulling 1,500 right across the street in all these contested states? I don't know. Something doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And we put a lot of our life into this. There's no family in the world that loves America more than we do. We bleed red, white, and blue. Believe me, our lives have become exponentially worse having done what we did.
Oh, yeah.
From a personal freedom standpoint, believe me, I spend a lot less time sitting at a tree stand now than ever before. I've got a lot more headaches. There's a lot more arrows that get shot at me every single day.
Yeah.
The way we parody, the way I'm parodied every night on Saturday Night Live, the way they come after us, the way they attack our children. I mean, it's insane. But at the same time, we love this country, and you better have somebody that has the resources and has the backbone to fight this people, this system. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country, and that's really what we're out there fighting for. And I'm not an alarmist. I'm really not. I'm a pretty level-headed, cool guy. But, we were the ones who were able to take this fight, to kind of, the whole system.
Sure.
Jeb Bush wouldn't have done that. Jeb Bush would have gotten crushed in about 3 seconds flat, right? Like, my father had the backbone. He had the means. He had the voice box. He had the stubbornness. He had the common sense. He had the platform, and he was right on the political issues. He could actually, kind of prove results at the end of the day. And I love this country, and I'd love to see him do it in 2024. And I can tell you there are more people right now coming out and saying, we need you guys, because this isn't working. I mean, what's happening on the southern border? What's happening in Afghanistan? What's happening to inflation? What's happening to our ports? It's not working. This country's not working right now. And, it's so I certainly hope we do it again. And believe me, I'll be the first person by his side if we do.
I hope so too. And like you said, like it's just not working right now. Like nothing's working. And if you rewind, 2 years, everything was working for the most part. Are you RSVPing yes this holiday? Express has you covered with outfits for every single invite. Express is that perfect mix of confidence-boosting styles and comfort for every occasion this holiday season. Check out their suits available in plaid, flannel, luxe comfort fabrics, and more. Perfect for everything from swanky holiday parties to festive weddings. Or maybe you need a winter jacket. Express has a killer line of flannel jackets, sharp blazers, handsome bombers, and more. And those flannel jackets are so warm and the perfect layer for all my holiday fits. And of course, you can match any style with jeans, dress pants, or chinos. The Express Flex X jeans are the most flexible denim yet, with a comfort stretch waist. So what are you waiting for? RSVP yes this holiday. Unwrap festive new styles, holiday deals, and more at express.com or in stores. I saw your dad in Vegas, and he talked to kind of a small group, and he was talking about the election and, the night of, and he's like, listen, he goes, Vegas doesn't miss. He goes, all the odds in Vegas, like we were winning. It was over. He goes, look around, like this place isn't this. They don't miss like this. And he goes, and all of a sudden, things closed and we lost. It just it's crazy how that all went down.
Jay, 1.9%. New York Times, the morning, November 8th of 2016, New York Times gave us a 1.9% chance of winning, right? And ironically, by the way, the Patriots game, they gave the Patriots a 1.9% chance of winning. What the hell Super Bowl was that? What year was that? Like, 2017 or something? 2018? They gave them a 1.9% chance of winning when they were down by 25 points at the half, right?
Yep.
But they gave us 1 point, right? And that speaks to kind of the media of this country, and that speaks to the whole ecosystem, which is totally aligned against us, and something that we need to change. But Vegas doesn't miss. Vegas had it right. They had the pulse of this country right. And I can tell you right now, I think we have more support right now than we did in 2016 than any time before in history. Because again, people are, and just one last point on this. You're not seeing the other side fight. Right? Americans want fighters in there, and they're not working, right? Like, when you have a problem on the southern border, you have Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be the border czar. You know where she is? She's in freaking Vietnam, right? And, Afghanistan's falling apart. And you know where, Joe Biden is? He's in, Wilmington, Delaware. He's at home, right? And, where's Pete Buttigieg when you have 200 ships parked outside, Port of LA? He's on freaking paternity leave, right? Yeah. The problem is these guys aren't fighting. Like, I don't care what time of the day it was. It could be 2:00 in the morning. My father would come off of Air Force One, and he'd be ranting, raving about China and how they're not going to rip off the United States of America and this and that. And he'd be, negotiating, and he would be fighting. This country had a fighter. These people they don't even know they're breathing. They're nowhere to be found. And, regardless of where you are on a political issue, at least put love and heart. The one thing you could say about Bernie Sanders, he might have been crazy in terms of a lot of policy positions, but the guy was a damn fighter, right? Yeah, he was. And you should give him credit for that. Yep. The problem is we have a bunch of people in office right now who are still working from home. The people who run the United States government are still working from home. They're not putting in the hours. They're not putting in the fight. And it's infuriating to see as somebody who worked so damn hard for everything that we've accomplished.
Yeah, everyone in office now is just on. It seems like they're just in cruise control. They're just just riding out these 4 years, and whatever happens. Like they're not, like you said, fighting for this country.
If you had that work ethic, you wouldn't have made it to JV football.
Yeah, no, not even close.
And these are people who are expected to run the largest economy of the world, the superpower of the world. Like we expect, and frankly, we demand more of them. And it's, and then when they're called out, like that one brave Marine who called them out for it, guess what? He gets thrown in the brig. I mean, it's it's insane. I mean, these guys wouldn't last 5 minutes in private industry. They wouldn't last 2 minutes in capitalism. They'd be fired on the spot for being
incompetent,
lazy, and unmotivated, yet they happen to be running the United States government. And it's tough to watch.
It is. It's crazy. It is crazy. But like you said, you guys have a ton of support. I think more support than 16 or any time in the last 4 or 5 years. And it sounds like the family's going to make another run, which is going to please a lot of people. So I think we're not there yet, but I think we're heading in the right direction. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, we're heading in the right direction. It's just we've got to curtail the damage that they can do in the next 3 years to.
Yep.
Just really constitutional values that we hold dear. And we can't change what America looks like. America is the greatest country in the world, and we're not eliminating Thanksgiving, and we're not eliminating Halloween, and we're going to say Merry Christmas, and we're going to continue to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to continue to believe in red, white, and blue. And I just hope these people don't do too much damage before that time comes. We'll get them when that time comes, but I just hope they don't damage this country too much before that time does come.
I agree. Well, Eric, I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure. I know you're busy, so I thank you for coming on and shedding some light on some things for us.
Yeah, Jay, it's an honor to be on, and thanks for all your support. You've been a real warrior out there as well.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks, bud. Okay, that's a wrap. Eric Trump, pleasure having him on. Like I said at the beginning, I'm sure this might ruffle a few feathers, maybe not. I think that he spoke honestly. He just wants to help this country be the best it possibly can, regardless of political views, views on the vaccine, views on money, views on social issues. Just trying to do his part, and his family, I think, is doing the same. So. Instagram, Twitter, hit me up. We're going to keep this train rolling along. And that's it. Thanks.